And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Lauren McFarlane, who writes, the recovery of the movie theater industry has been front and center in movie circles for the last year, with a lot of people saying they weren't very comfortable in going back to the movie theaters, but that seems to be changing. I just read an article in the Hollywood Reporter that says a national study shows that the same percentage of people are now either very comfortable or somewhat comfortable as they were just before the theaters got shut down, which is always encouraging to see, I suppose. Just before the theater shut down. Is this the most definitive sign the theaters are heading towards recovery? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Lauren. And look, there has been a number of things. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but when in terms of the theater industry, people going back to the movies heading back, for public consumption, we have been seeing some encouraging signs. Again, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but at least we'll call them encouraging signs. We've been seeing new case rates in California at least dropping, which is good. We've been seeing them being way ahead of their vaccination schedule. They originally said 100 million vaccinations in the first 100 days. I think they're going to be close to 200 million vaccinations in the first 100 days, which is great. So that's a positive sign. We've seen theaters in New York and Los Angeles reopen. Rob, got to go to the movie theaters the other day. We booked a private theater to go and watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which was a fantastic experience. Fantastic. But more than that, I remember on the first couple of days that the theaters opened in LA again, I jumped on, we talked about this in the show, I jumped onto the AMC website and looked at my favorite theater, the AMC Burbank 16, and everything that I was interested in seeing was already booked. Rob, I went and took a look at the opening day. Thankfully, I've already got my tickets, but I went and looked at the opening day ticketing for Godzilla vs. Kong. Every screening was sold out.
Wow.
That I went and looked at. Every screening was sold out that I looked at. Now, of course, there are limited capacity, all those smart things that they need to do, but that's encouraging. And it does seem, and by the way, Travis L. Marshall sends in a super chat badge, as well as Ray Valero. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Appreciate that. It looks like things are heading that direction. Now, a group called the National Research Group has just done a national study, and they came up with this. Well, let's go take a look at it here. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter that writes, the leading Hollywood entertainment polling firm, National Research Group, has been surveying moviegoers on a weekly basis since the pandemic began on their comfort level in returning to theaters. Thursday of this week was a milestone day. For the first time since the pandemic crippled the theatrical experience a year ago, those saying that they would either feel very or somewhat okay about buying a movie ticket hit a record best of 57%. That's identical to comfort on Sunday, March 15th, 2020, the Sunday before all the U.S. cinemas went dark. If this trend continues, overall comfort levels could cross 60% by the first week of April. That, of course, comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. And at one point, Rob, we know that percentage, because we talked about it a number of months ago, maybe it was in August or October, something like that, but the same firm put out studies that said confidence levels was down around 21%.
Yeah.
It was down as low as 21%. And it has, of course, come up. By the way, special thank to Andreas, who sends in like a $20 chat badge in the live chat, in the live stream. Thank you so much for that, Andreas. Appreciate the support, man, very much. Rob, again, this is not something, we need to temper this. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves on this. But in the world of good news or bad news, seeing theaters selling out, limited capacity, seeing that these numbers, that it seems like the audience's confidence is heading back in the right direction.
Yeah.
These are all good signs. Again, we need to temper it. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to suddenly jump up and down and proclaim, mission accomplished. Everything's good now. Everything's perfect. We're right back. No. We're still a long way from that. But it is at least encouraging to see. Rob, let me ask you this. Number one, what do you think about these numbers, and do they give us reason to be a little bit more hopeful about the recovery effort at this point? And secondly, what do you think might be behind the audience feeling apparently a little bit more comfortable about going back now? And do you think those numbers are going to continue to rise? How do you see this?
Well, look, I mean, I think now that we've got the vaccine being rolled out, and we've seen cases come down. Not everywhere. I mean, we're not out of the woods yet. Look at what happened in Florida over the weekend. I think people
Yep.
still need to be
Yep.
they need to be diligent, and they're not. I mean, even with the vaccine rollout, that doesn't mean that people that don't have the vaccine can't get this virus or pass it along. But I do think that the vaccine is a big step. But I think people want their lives back. I know you went to a movie theater Friday night, but and that was awesome. But it was still something you organized on your own. It wasn't like, I want to go buy a ticket, John. I want to see a movie. And even I don't necessarily feel totally comfortable. If I was vaccinated, I'd feel better. But I think that confidence is increasing. And as the numbers come down in various parts of the country, I think it's going to get safer, and people want to go back and they want their lives back. And I don't think that we can stress enough how much people want their lives back, because they do. And I understand that. But I don't think, while people are going to go back to movie theaters, I don't know when we're going to see theaters return to capacity,
Right.
like the way it was pre-pandemic. And I think one of the things people have to remember about the box office is they still need theaters to open all the way to make $150 or $200 million tentpole film viable at the box office. Everyone's like, well, it made $60 million. Well, that's not enough. These movies, whether it's a Marvel movie or a big DC film, they need to make $1 billion. And we're a long way from that. But hopefully it will come in time. I just hope people are careful.
Yeah. I mean, and it should be pointed out here that a movie can still make, without being at full capacity, a movie can still make a decent amount of money. But as Rob was pointing out, it becomes extremely challenging because we all know how important opening weekend numbers are. And they've become more and more important as the years have gone on when you look at the movie-going trends. It's just very, very difficult to have those types of opening weekend numbers like you really need to have. You can still have longer-term numbers. You just wait a little bit longer to go to see it. But it's going to be interesting to see how that all turns out. Guys, the question is for you. What do you think about these numbers and these studies that we're seeing? Do you feel that, like, when amongst the people you talk to, do you feel like the idea or the confidence about the idea of going back to the movie theaters is increasing? Maybe you're with that, maybe you're not. How do you guys see it? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.